In this video, I'm going to explain what a traditional healer does from the context of what we have in the Bible, and to show similarities between the ancestors that we have and what people say and what we've been taught today as being demonic when we consult with a traditional healer. So I came across this quote some time ago, and I think the guy who said it was very much spot on. He says, the spiritual significance of Jesus Christ is that African Americans, I put there black people in general, have suffered from institutional racism, which diminishes their spiritual and cultural self-esteem because of the color of Christ, and that should not go unnoticed. You see, this guy was very right. It was very, very right, because as we grew up, we taught that what we should consider as our culture is demonic when we speak of our ancestors, and when we consult our ancestors as well as traditional healers, we are going against God. But there is a spiritual significance of Jesus Christ being made white, and to just demonize everything that we do as traditional healers. So I'm here to explain, basically, among other things, what a traditional healer does and who are they. The videos that you would hear on YouTube, they are right. I'm not here to say that they are not wrong, because they are very right. But we all understand it from a level of understanding from where we come from. So among other things, a traditional healer is someone, and I mean traditional healer, I must repeat it again, as somebody with an ancestral calling. A traditional healer is someone who is appointed to control the spiritual realm with the physical elements in order to facilitate healing and light, which is righteousness, as well as to bring balance in nature. Someone also who is able to communicate with the spiritual world, and I mean God, your ancestors, your angels, but you're also able to govern over other spirits, demonic entities. So why are traditional healers necessary today? And I don't mean that they were not necessarily, they were not necessary back in the day. It's just that back in the day there was no qualification of doctors being a medical doctor. We didn't have medicine as we have it today, or what we call medicine today. But if we take the Bible and we take Revelation 18:23, we actually find out how upside down this world has become. It says, and the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee, for thy merchants were great men of the earth. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. That's from the King James Version. When we look at the word sorceries there, from Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, it says medicine or medication or pharmacy. It also goes on by extension to say magic. You understand? So pharmacies, medication. If you go on further, if you read Webster's New Dictionary there at the bottom, the art pharmacy, from Greek pharmakeia, that was the word that was used for sorceries there. It says the art or practice of preparing, preserving, compounding, dispensing drugs, a place where medicines are compounded or dispensed, a drugstore. So the things, basically it's saying that the things that you go find at your pharmacy, your drugs, that's sorcery. That's not of the light. I'm not saying that the people that do it now are like demonic, or there's something wrong. People do it as a way to help people, because not everyone is gifted. And the whole thing of being brainwashed, it's part of it, the agenda, to demonize the people who are appointed by God to come and heal, bring healing and light and righteousness. Alright, so as a traditional healer, umntana wedlozi, is someone who was called by God before they came forth out of the womb. Before you were formed in your belly, I knew thee, and before thou comest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. So you were called before you were born. You don't choose this. It's not something you could choose. Just like in the Bible, you couldn't choose and say, God, please make me. God chooses them. And you will always seem like different, You will always seem different when you are chosen. You won't be you won't be able to blend in or feel comfortable around people. It's just a wake-up call that you're sanctified and called and set apart for a different specific purpose, a bigger purpose, a higher calling. So here, I want to bring across something very interesting. I read from the Legends of the Jews by Louis Ginsberg, from the chapter of the last years of Abraham. If we read from the second paragraph there, just before that, it just says that Isaac reunited Hagar with Abraham, and Hagar's other name was Keturah. So when the Bible speaks of Keturah, it's still Hagar. Hagar bore him 6 sons who, after, did scant honor to their father, for all they were idolaters. Abraham, therefore, during his own lifetime, sent them away from the presence of Isaac, that they might not be singed by Isaac's flame, and gave them the instruction to journey eastward as far as possible. There he built a city for them, surrounded by an iron wall, so high that the sun could not shine into the city. But Abraham provided them with huge gems and pearls, their luster more brilliant than the light of the sun, which will be used in the Messianic time, when the moon shall be confounded and the sun ashamed. Also, Abraham taught them the black art, wherewith they held sway over demons and spirits. It is from this city in the east that Balaam's father Beor, derived their sorceries. Alright, guys. You see this part where Abraham taught them the black art, wherewith they held sway, demons and spirits. There are traditional healers that specialize in this, just like people who have the spirit of Ndao, for instance. I don't know what you would call it in other places in Africa, in other languages, but in South Africa, this would be Ndao. This is what you would do. You have the power, your ancestors teach you to hold sway over demons and spirits. You understand? This, I can tell you that if I could put it in English, because English is such a boring language, but if I could translate what I specialize in, amongst other things, is exactly this, that Abraham taught. And I don't like the way they say black art, because, it just seems so bad, But what would you do if you were of a different race? You would say it's a black art, you understand? But it's not a black art, It's just mysterious to them, I also want you to just take notice of the word Sanusi. If you read at the bottom of the page there that I've put highlighted there, In the language of the Hittites, a high priest is known as a Sanusi or Sanusi. Now, this just goes to show that there is similarities where we come from. Is the problem is English. In Judges here, it says, and the children of Israel dwelt among the Canaanites, Hittites, and Amorites. So Israel, our ancestors, this is how they intermingled. This is how today in Zulu and in Xhosa we would have the word Sanusi. You understand? It's a high priest. And the definition here would say a traditional healer or diviner, often an aged practitioner who has developed his or her psychic gifts and whose clairvoyant powers enable him or her to smell out evil. A smeller out. Okay? Smelling doctor. Okay. This is part of our heritage. We think of Ubaba Credo Mutwa because he was a Sanusi. He had so much wisdom anyway. So a traditional healer is a messenger of the spiritual world, guys. Here I was so interested in this verse because if I could say what is uklola in English, what is to consult in the spiritual world, what in English I would say it as this: to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just. Umuntu oyisangoma, or a traditional healer, it's to reunite you and to set everything in order, to bring light and righteousness so that your ancestors can continue to protect you, continue to guide you on your life, in your life. And the ways of the light, the ways of righteousness is also assisted by a traditional healer, because we are able to relay messages from people of the light and how things are done in the light, how things are done right, in how to set things right in the spiritual realm, in your life, in your family, to make a people prepared for the Lord. Hallelujah. Ukuthi singalimazani nakhona, so that we we honor our mother and fathers, we love your neighbor as you love yourself. All of these 10 commandments, they are the basis of the things that we practice, our culture, And I move on to say, Abraham here says, this is the part where Abraham is speaking with the unrighteous man who wanted to send Lazarus to go and preach to his brothers after he had passed on. This is in the spiritual realm. So the Bible is telling us what is happening. Firstly, Abraham is letting this guy know that, look, it's not for you just to send somebody who is in the light just because you want to fix your things. It's not for you. They have Moses and the prophets. It's not for you just because when you pass on and you didn't live a righteous life, it's for you to just determine who goes up and who can send who. They have Moses. We know the word Moses, like the name Moses, is actually used to speak of the law and the prophets. So here I was very very struck, because they say they have Moses and the prophets, meaning that they have the law. We know, this is another thing I have a problem with the writings of Paul sometimes, because they don't correlate with the Old Testament. They don't correlate with even what Jesus said. Jesus said, I don't come to take away the law. But now here is Paul saying the law is dead. But here in Deuteronomy, in Psalms, it speaks as the law as life-giving. It's righteous. So Abraham says to this guy who's passed on that your brothers have the law. They have the law. Which it brings them, that preaches righteousness, that teaches them how to live. And the prophets, abantu abazobalayela kahle bayenzela izinto kahle, to do and help them fix things in the spiritual realm. They must hear them. You understand? So traditional healers are able to control the spiritual using physical with the spiritual. So I have here, we know that we have rainmakers, right? And Elijah, the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, and said unto Ahab, as the Lord of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew or rain these years, but according to my word. That's from 1 Kings chapter 17. Here is an example of a rainmaker. Elijah was a rainmaker. He was able to bring rain. He was able to stop rain. We know in African spirituality, we had people that would go to, if there was a drought, and ask them to help and assist the community to bring rain, and rain would come. This is such an example. Here is what I wanted to point to you about ancestors. How that, yes, we control, not ancestors, sangomas, traditional healers, are able to control the physical spiritually. Here we have the part where Joshua commands the sun and the moon to stand still. All right. Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is it not written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down about a whole day. All right. So here we have the first insert, like Joshua, we know he is a prophet. All right, the Bible tells it many times, refers to him as a prophet. Even when God spoke to Moses and said, take Joshua. He said, take Joshua, make him a prophet. You understand? So Joshua had the ability to speak to sun and the moon as a prophet, as a his time had come, So he needed, he was able to instruct the ancestors of the sun and the moon to stay. Is it not written in the book of Joshua? And I just wanted to point this out, that I don't know why the book of Joshua, people would say it's not inspired, because how can an inspired book quote an uninspired book, and the uninspired book remain an uninspired book, when the inspired book is pointing you to it? So we're just going to go to the book of Joshua. And when they were smiting, the day was declining toward evening. And Joshua said in the sight of all the people, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon, until the nation shall have avenged itself upon its enemies. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Joshua, and the sun stood still in the midst of the heavens, and it stood still 36 moments, and the moon also stood still and hastened not to go down about a whole day. All right. So this is from the book of Joshua. I'm going to go back to the legends of the Jews here. I love the way it just explains it. It says In the second paragraph, we're going to read from there. The battle took place on a Friday. Joshua knew it would pain the people deeply to be compelled to desecrate the holy Sabbath day. Besides, he noticed that the heathen were using sorcery to make the heavenly hosts intercede for them in the fight against the Israelites. He therefore pronounced the name of the Lord, and the sun, moon, and stars stood still. The moon at first refused to obey Joshua's behest, seeing that he was older than man by 2 days. Joshua replied that there was no reason why a freeborn youth should refrain from enjoining silence upon an old slave whom he owns. And had not God given heaven and earth to our father Abraham? More than this, did not the son himself bow down like a slave before Joseph? But the son said, who will praise God if I be silent? So here is just to show you that the mindset of the people, even the mindset of Joshua, he knew that, yes, the son is older. The son was right that I was older by 2 days and is the ancestor, but still, God had given the heaven and earth to man, but even still had given the whole earth and heaven to Abraham. Did not, he put out an argument to that ancestor and was like, no, but you belong to Abraham, who is my ancestor. You may be an ancestor himself, but you are a slave. You bowed yourself down to Joseph as well. So your argument is not standing. Please remain still. That was the mindset of Joshua as a prophet. Isn't that interesting? So in 2 Kings chapter 4, we have Elisha. It reads as follows. So they poured out for the men to eat, and it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out and said, O thou, man of God, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat thereof. But he said, then bring meal. And he cast it into the pot. And he said, pour out for the people that they may eat. And there was no harm in the pot. So, these things would only, I'm pointing out that these things would only happen, mind you, if you are connected to the ancestral realm, the spiritual realm. You understand? You connect with the spirits of the earth and the spirits of the water in order to perform such things. Elisha, the Bible doesn't speak about a lot of things, but we see this because even there are some women who can do this. They can, even when I explain this, they're like, no man, I did this. This is nothing new. This is the way that we had lived life before, It's 2 Kings chapter 6 says, and the man of God said, where fell it? And he showed him the place. And he cut down a stick and cast it in thither. And the iron did swim. Therefore said he, take it up to thee. And he put out his hand and took it, An iron, piece of iron fell into the water and it sank. Obviously it's iron. But here comes Elisha, takes a piece of wood, casts it in the place where the iron is, and the iron swims. It kind of indicates idlozlamanzi or something along that line, if you kind of get my drift. These are the things as izangoma zakudala abantu ma-prophetic zakudala, ancient prophets, what they could do. We know different prophets even now that are resurrecting, You understand? It's not something that is only within the church. Yes, I don't eradicate ukuthi God didn't fetch. God fetched me in the church also, But these are the things that have been happening from before, long before. You understand? So we have Elisha again in 2 Kings chapter 2. And the men of the city said unto Elisha, Behold, I pray thee, the situation of the city is pleasant, as my Lord seeth, but the water is naught, and the ground barren. And he said, Bring me a new cruse. And he put salt therein, and they brought it to him. And he went forth into the spring of the waters, and cast the salt in there, and said, Thus saith the Lord, I have healed these waters. There shall not be from thenceforth any more death or barren land. Okay, so firstly, salt is something that we use that is a spiritual purpose as well. As a prophet, we use, as a traditional healer is able to give you salt for various things, you understand. And just from even like Elisha here, just speaking to you and instructing you what to do, that instruction has power in itself to perform what it says you must tell it. Just by giving you that instruction has the ability to do and perform what it talks about. So we spiritual traditional healers show up. We use your natural elements, to cast death, no more death, because death here, it may have it was also spiritual. Do you understand? That there shouldn't be any, there was barren land, there was no water. You understand? There had to be a curse broken or a release in the spiritual realm. Okay, and Isaiah said, Take up a lump of figs, and they took and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. All right, so I think this was, let me just go to 2 Kings, yes. So this was the part where we have King Hezekiah, who was told to God to set his house in order, So we know the story, but here in verse 7 it says that Elijah took a lump of figs, and he said they must take a lump of figs, and instructed them to put them on the boil, and he recovered. So in Zulu, English is limited, but in Zulu I would actually say, he said, take up a lump of figs and hambiyokuma. You understand? So bamkumisa with this whole part, why yokuma? So as a traditional healer, that's what we do as well. What Isaiah does here is exactly what we do. I can instruct you to put something on the pot. You go and you steam, basically it's steaming. That herb or whatever mixture or concoction has the power to break the spirit of death over you. Not necessarily now that every time when we have a headache, when we have this and this and this, that we run always to these pharmacies, because a headache could very well indicate not that you are in the physical sick, but it's a manifestation of something in the spiritual realm. It's part of a message that you need to go and find out what's going on. And the time that you find out what's going on, the headache is gone. Now, you, instead of going to go find out what happened or what's going on in the spiritual realm, you're busy going Panado and other things, and you go to doctors, and that's why you suffer. We end up suffering a lot, to the point that we also get plagued in the churches. Instead of going to find out why is there a disease, Where does it come from? Is it spiritual? Is it physical? Because we see, but we don't. We see in part. You understand? So to consult the spiritual realm saves you money at the end of the day. To go and consult your ancestors, it saves you money from going to the hospital, going to wherever, because they know what's going on with you. They are with you. They are just waiting for you to come. Everything is a choice. But God, like God said, I put life and death before you. Everything is a choice. Which one do you go to? You understand? So, controlling the physical with the spiritual. Again, we have Elisha. I love Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee. Thou shalt be clean. Just with an instruction to go emanzini, uyogeza 7 times, you'd be cured from leprosy. You're going to be clean. Not just even physically. He said your flesh will come again. So that's physical healing. But you will be clean. Meaning umoya wako uyogezeka. You will have a regeneration, because water is regeneration. That's why it's necessary as a black person to go to the river to go and wash, get prayed for. You understand? It's a regeneration that you will be clean. So here we have Jesus with the blind man who had no eyes. It reads as follows: When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with clay, and said unto him, Go, wash in the pool of Sent. He went his way therefore and washed and came seeing. So there's also a natural elements. You have to be connected to the spiritual realm, meaning your spirit of the water, the spirit of the earth, to produce such things, to produce some miracles. You understand? You understand? Just like Jesus. So he created a miracle where he made eyes. He used sand and made eyes for the blind man. We know that the body is made from the earth. You understand? So he had the power as a prophet, as a traditional healer. So I can say Jesus we can see here, he's a traditional healer because you use your natural elements, that hidden knowledge, Maybe we also need to ask what kind of sand he used, you understand? Maybe there's also another hidden revelation there. But at the end of the day, traditionally, he healed that man. So, hi guys, Pelili class. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. So, umuntu oyimprofeti, understand, or a person who was an ancestral calling, called to be a traditional healer, be a sangoma or whatever, but to produce healing. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. We are very necessary. We see how we've been lied to. And for the very, very mere fact that we've been told that this is demonic, it is to break down our spiritual power in order for us to have been colonized. You understand? They could not break us without breaking the prophets first. Hence, we had the Witchcraft Act. So once they accomplished what they needed to accomplish by demonizing our culture with that very act, you understand, things got worse. It was bad, you understand. It became worse. So our power actually relies in understanding who we are and the power that we have as people of the soil, people, black people, we need to just go back and read. If you like are not reading even after such revelations come through, I just encourage you to read more. If there's things that are hidden, they are hidden in books, they are hidden on PDFs on the internet that just need to be downloaded. So ngiyathokoza. I hope you opened your mind. It was something that you learned. If you really enjoyed it, please share it with your loved ones, even lo muntu okuthiwa unobizo. I wish you a good day and a good rest of the week and a good weekend, and see you in another video. Like and subscribe. Thokozani.